least 125 people are dead, hundreds more missing. Germany just deployed some 850 troops to help with disaster relief. CNN's Melissa Bell is in Belgium.
The floodwaters were moving northwards by Friday, leaving behind a trail of devastation. Vast swathes of Germany, Belgium and the Netherlands only now beginning to realize the cost of historic storms.
The question is whether any of this should really have come as a surprise. Not only had the heavy rains of this season forecast before the sun, for years, experts have been warning that in this part of the world, one of the effects of climate change was always going to be heavy rain and flash flooding in the summer months.
And yet, by the time the waters came, no one was prepared. From Germany to Belgium, the pictures caught by terrified locals give a sense of how fast and furiously the waters rose on Thursday, sweeping away everything in their path. By Friday morning, the scale of the devastation was becoming clear. In the Belgian village of Pepinster, people returning to what was left of their homes and their livelihoods. This family's wine shop engulfed in a thick layer of mud. Its owner says that in 70 years her father has never seen anything like it.
72 ans d'effort.
72 ans d'effort, mon papa, 72 ans. In the nearby town of Liège, French military personnel and equipment have been brought in as part of what is now an international rescue effort. As you can see, the water here really rose quite high. What the locals that we've been speaking to have told us, many of them still trapped in their homes but now running out of food and water, is that when the flash flood came, it was a mighty torrent that came down these streets. There was nothing gradual about it, and it happened, the streets filled up with water within a couple of hours. The rescuers going house to house. In Germany, the scenes are heartbreakingly similar. In one town, the residents of a disabled care home were trapped. They'd been asleep, and attempts to get them out failed. Across the country, at least 105 people have been killed, with many hundreds more missing.
We are doing everything we can to save lives, repair damage, and avert further dangers under the most difficult conditions.
But even as Europe begins to count the cost of the worst floods in more than a century, its politicians are looking to their lessons for the future.
It is the intensity and the length of these events where science tells us this is a clear indication of climate change, and that this is something where we really, it shows the urgency to act.
An urgency all the clearer from above a part of the world not used to the kind of humanitarian crisis it now faces. Jake, tonight those large-scale rescue efforts continue in a part of the world that continues to see dangerously high water levels, landslides, dams breaking down, and power outages. Those scenes of chaos caused by natural disaster that this part of the world is simply not used to seeing so far, Jake.
Melissa Bell in Belgium, thank you so much for that report. Our sports lead today is running neck and neck with our health lead. We're just 1 week from the start of the COVID-delayed Summer Olympics in Tokyo, and there are coronavirus emergencies across Japan. We're likely to be asking who's sick as much as we'll be asking who won. CNN's Will Ripley is in Tokyo. Let's start with the pandemic. Will, what are the conditions in Japan today?
The weather is sunny, but the mood is gray. You have the highest case numbers in 6 months. You have Japanese who 8 out of 10 of them don't think the Olympics should be happening. When the IOC president, Thomas Bach, went to Hiroshima yesterday, there were protesters who told him to go home. That's how a lot of people in Japan are feeling about these thousands of people coming in from all over the world in the middle of one of their worst outbreaks and some of the highest numbers they've seen since January.
Will, tell us about the effects. More athletes have withdrawn or announced they won't participate?
Yeah, you have a long list of highly paid tennis players who just aren't bothering to come here, but there was an Australian basketball player, a women's basketball player, who said she's pulling out because she's been having anxiety attacks about the thought of playing in a completely empty venue without her friends and family. You had, even from Team USA, the health and safety protocols are so strict that you had a Washington Wizards player who had to, stay home. And so there's, more and more athletes are not able to come here. Some athletes who have come here, if somebody on their plane is positive, or in the case of the Brazilian judo team, staff at their hotel were tested positive before they even arrived, but they are now also in isolation, losing out on practice time.
Well, what's being done to keep people safe?
Well, we've been taking COVID tests on an almost daily basis since we arrived after filling out this huge pile of paperwork and getting tested just to come here. The athletes, they have to keep masks on at all times in the Olympic Village. They're not allowed to high five or even yell or cheer or support their teammates. They're completely forbidden from having any sort of social interaction. So you have kids from all over the world who are excited to come here and compete, and then they have to leave 2 days after the event and not interact with anybody. It's a very Spartan existence, in many ways teleporting us back to the height of the worst lockdowns during COVID. And then you have the medal ceremony where they're not even going to have somebody put the medal over their neck. They're going to get a tray and they have to put it on themselves.
Oh, man. Well, Ripley in Tokyo, thanks so much. Appreciate it. A man with 50 firearms and 5 pipe bombs arrested in a plot to spark a government overthrow. That story next.